In today's video, I'm going to show you high-protein foods from different categories and how to cook with them so that you don't need to worry about getting enough protein in your meals. But how do you determine a high-protein source? There are multiple ways to do this. I like to check the calorie-to-protein ratio in the raw state of the food, and as a personal rule of thumb, I've decided that 10:1 or more classifies something as high in protein. So that would be 1 gram or more protein per 10 calories. Mind you, I said protein per calorie and not grams. If you measure protein per gram, you will end up with a different food list. Peanut butter is a very good example here. On the per gram scale, it ranks even higher than chicken breast, but when you take calories into consideration, peanut butter is not even in the top 20 anymore. So I will divide this video into multiple sections with meats, fish, dairy and other protein sources, and then show you how I implement these in my daily meal plans. This way you will always eat enough protein in your diet. All you really need to do is prioritize these foods as the first ingredient when planning a meal. That's really it. First up, let's talk about meats. High in protein are skinless chicken breast, turkey breast, pork loin and beef top sirloin. All are super lean cuts of meat that have at least 20 grams of protein per 100 calories with about 5% fat content. As a bonus, I will also add egg whites to this list, which are also high in protein. The whole egg isn't as high in protein due to the fat in the egg yolk, so it's not on the top list. For most people, adding about 150 grams of one of these cuts of meat is plenty for a meal. You get about 30 to 35 grams of protein from the meat alone. Personally, I love to stir fry any piece of meat sliced into thin pieces. Just add some oil to a pan on medium heat and fry the meat for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, and now you don't have to worry about protein anymore regardless of the meal you are making. You can stir fry it with other vegetables and potatoes or add it on top of a salad. You will pretty much always have enough protein in your meal if you use a lean cut of meat. Next, the most versatile protein source in my opinion is dairy. You can use dairy for sweet or savory recipes, for breakfast, dinner or even dessert. The best dairy protein sources are 1% fat cottage cheese, non-fat cream cheese, non-fat Greek yogurt, plain skyr, which is my personal favorite, and lastly, fresh mozzarella, which is a very underrated dairy product. All of these have at least 15 grams of protein per 100 calories. For example, with oatmeal, simply add 200 grams of Greek yogurt or skyr to your oats and combine it with some skimmed milk so it tastes good, and just like that, we have 20 grams of protein for only 120 additional calories. Or for another sweet breakfast, add 200 grams of cottage cheese to a bowl, and yes, you can eat cottage cheese for breakfast. Just add a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon on top, add 10 grams of honey, slice a sweet apple into slices and add it on top as well, and lastly add 20 grams of walnuts that you can break up with your hands. This is a very nice and speedy breakfast with only 330 calories and 28 grams of protein. You want something more savory? Then add 100 grams of cream cheese to a bowl and combine it with a quarter teaspoon each of garlic powder, paprika and cayenne pepper, then add a pinch of salt and 5 grams of honey. Mix this with a spoon and now you have an amazing spread for a sandwich. This with some deli meat, tomatoes and lettuce tastes absolutely incredible and will add an additional 10 grams of protein for only 80 calories, which is very good for a spread. The fresh mozzarella is the main ingredient for an Italian classic dish called caprese. You need to remove the water from the package first and then slice the mozzarella into thin slices. One cheese ball usually weighs 120 grams. Then do the same thing with a big tomato, and now you need to add a piece of tomato to a plate and cover it with a piece of cheese, and you repeat this until you have formed a beautiful circle. Add a pinch of salt, some dried oregano, fresh basil, and lastly 4 grams of olive oil, and there you have an absolute classic appetizer with 250 calories and 25 grams of protein. As a bonus, you can always go back to the MVP of all protein sources, and it's protein powder. This is great for times where you either don't have or don't want any other dairy product. For example, add a scoop of protein powder to a bowl of oatmeal instead of the Greek yogurt, or if you only want to eat fruits like blueberries and strawberries for breakfast with a couple of walnuts, you can simply combine a scoop of protein powder with water or milk, and then you get 24 grams of protein for 120 calories in every scoop of a good whey protein powder. Next is probably the least liked but also most underrated category, and it's seafood. My favorites here are tuna, either fresh or canned without the oil, whose macros are even better than in chicken breasts. Shrimp or scampi is a very good protein source as well, and lastly cod, which is my personal favorite for a fish. These have all super good macros, and I would use about 150 to 200 grams of either one of them per meal, which is enough protein for most people. For example, with canned tuna, what you can do is add the entire can into a bowl, then add 100 grams of non-fat cream cheese and half of an avocado. Then squeeze in half of a lemon, add a pinch of salt, freshly ground black pepper, and now mash everything with a fork, and I promise this is an amazing salad, or you can use this as a spread for bread or even roll it into a tortilla. The entire bowl has over 50 grams of protein and about 350 to 400 calories. Here's an even simpler dish that is also very popular in Italy. Add a bit of oil to a pan on medium heat and add in frozen raw shrimp. Let them cook for a couple of minutes until they are almost cooked through. You will see that they will become orange. Then add a couple of chopped garlic cloves and keep stirring for 20 to 30 seconds before adding 150 grams of sliced tomatoes with a bunch of fresh herbs like basil or parsley. Add a pinch of salt, black pepper and chili flakes for some heat, then close the lid and let everything simmer on low heat for 3 to 4 minutes until you end up with a beautiful dish that tastes great with some pasta or even rice. The dish in itself has only 300 calories and 40 grams of protein. If you are interested in a cookbook with over 220 low-calorie, high-protein recipes that will help you lose weight and keep it off, then check the link in the description. You won't regret buying it. That's for the main protein sources. However, what most people underestimate are side dishes that can add quite a lot of protein over time if you choose the right ones. For example, legumes like red lentils, peas, or even beans like black or kidney beans. A serving of 50 grams raw red lentils has 170 calories and 11 grams of protein, which is double the amount of pasta, for example. So you can simply boil water with vegetable broth powder, add 50 grams of lentils, let it cook for 6 to 8 minutes, and there you have 11 grams of protein in your side dish. Peas are another great side dish as well. In themselves, they can be quite boring, but added to your stir fry, they add another 6 grams of protein for 85 calories, and you can add them directly out of your freezer, which is a cool bonus. However, in my opinion, the king of all sides is the potato. Not only does it taste great, but it's also quite low in calories with 72 calories per 100 grams. It's not that high in protein, but it's actually one of the most satiating foods that exist. I like to cut them into small cubes and then stir fry on medium heat in a little bit of oil for about 12 to 15 minutes until they are cooked through. 200 grams of potatoes is quite a bit of food and has only 140 calories with 5 grams of protein. Now, when it comes down to vegetables, a lot of people don't know that they actually have a great calorie to protein ratio. However, because they contain so much water, you would need to eat such a huge amount of vegetables for an adequate amount of protein, which is simply not practical as the main protein source. But as a side, protein adds up over time. For example, boiling 200 grams of broccoli in salted water is an easy way to add volume to your meals and also 6 grams of protein for only 60 calories. Or if you like asparagus, why not stir fry it in some oil with a bit of salt for a couple of minutes? It tastes really great in any stir fried dish and has quite good macros. So next time you make yourself a meal, just start prepping with the shown protein sources and you will never have issues with not getting enough protein in your meals again.